Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Tank B Chopping, and I'm back with another haircut tutorial. So this is my nephew Roger, and we're gonna be cutting his hair today. You know, he always gives me a call, you know, talking about, hey Theo, when can I come and get a cut? You know, I've been cutting his hair for a good little minute. But anyways, let's jump right into this cut. As you can see, I'm using my detachable blades. I do have a 5/8 blade on there. So basically with a 5/8, you know, what it equates to is basically about a 4 with the plastic clips. I know if you actually go by the dimensions, or the fraction is technically a 5, but the millimeter size and the way it cuts is actually a little shorter than the number 4, because I've done this and I tried going over the top of the 4 and the 4 doesn't cut anything. So it's a little shorter than a 4. And y'all know how I do it on top, guys. I like to go over it multiple times, you know, against the grain and across the grain. Basically just making sure I get any straight hairs, any flyaways, making sure all this is down to that desired length. And yeah, that's what we're doing. All right, now that the top is cut, what I'm doing is I'm gonna debulk this side slightly. So I have my 3 3/4 blade on my clipper right now, and all I'm doing is basically coming right up to that ridge area, you know, using a slight flick out motion. I'm really just letting the clipper do its thing, and I'm fading into the top of this hair just so it debulks it a little bit, and it makes it a little easier for me to fade into on the sides. And once again, guys, this is my 3 3/4 blade, and then what I'm going to do after this, I'm going to use my 3 1/2 blade and come right below this. So this is the 3 1/2 right now. And we're just doing the same thing, guys, coming up right to that ridge area. And as you can see, I'm using more of a flick out motion, and that's because obviously I don't want to create any lines or dark spots. One thing about cutting kids, guys, is not all kids, but most kids start getting a little fidgety towards the end of the cut, or you know, when they get a little bit of hair on them. And that's the same thing with my nephew right here. He started getting a little hair on him. He started moving around, but we still got the job done. That's just most kids, man. Like, you can't even complain. It is what it is. But we still as barbers, we still got to try to do our best to make sure we get the haircut as good as we possibly can get it. Alright, but now what I'm doing here is, as you can see, I got my Evo trimmer, and I'm just going in and setting a bald guideline in, and we're gonna be doing about a mid fade. So as you can see, I'm coming up midway, you know, on the side of the head, coming up. And as you can see, I did leave a little bit of hair in the C cup area because I do want to line that up, but at the same time, I know, like, he's a kid, so he's probably not gonna let me do like everything that I want to do and probably detail it as much as I want. But for the most part, I still did leave it a little darker because I do want to make sure that C cup looks nice and sharp. And we're just doing this all around the head. Y'all know how I do, guys. I like to drop it in the back slightly, not too much, but I do like to slightly drop it down in the back. That way I give myself more room to work with. And then what we do to the left side, we're gonna do to the right side. So I'm just doing the same thing on this opposite side and just tying these two sides in together. And once I do this, then I'm gonna go back and make sure my line is, you know, pretty straight. Like, you know, y'all know how I do it, guys. I don't make sure I don't make my lines perfectly straight. I'm just gonna be 100% honest with y'all. I try to make them, you know, pretty straight, but like I said before, guys, I'm gonna fade this line out anyway. So I don't really stress the fact of making it too straight. And that's just me. Some people like to be real anal about it, and some people try to make it super straight, but that's just not what I do. I feel like I can not waste, but I feel like I can use my time wiser and more. Wiser, is that even a word? I can use my time wisely and use that extra time more on detailing the cut. So now I'm going in with my shaver, and I'm just going over everything I did with that trimmer. And the closer I get to that bald line on top with that initial guideline, I'm flicking out my shaver, and I'm not putting in as much pressure. And that's gonna make this line basically fade into that trimmer a lot easier. Well, not a lot easier. It's basically gonna fade it into that trimmer line without leaving any harsh lines. And you know, sometimes if you push that razor too hard and you come all the way up to that line is hard to get out. So therefore, that's why I do it like this, and that's why I flick out and I don't come all the way up to that, you know, all the way up to that line with a harsh, you know, with a lot of pressure on it. Alright guys, so we actually moving on to the fade work now, and as you can see, I got my ergos from Gamma. I have my lever all the way open, and what I'm doing now is I'm setting in my next guideline, and I'm going to be coming up about 3/4 of an inch or so, you know, give or take, and I'm just following that same shape that I created with the with my bald guideline, following that same shape, and I'm using a slight flick out motion. Like I'm not really putting too much emphasis on the flick out motion, even though, you know, I'm doing it. It's more of that's just a habit that I've picked up. And I say that because sometimes people flick out too much. So I'm really just focusing, creating a nice, you know, even line. And then as you can see there, I close my lever halfway, and I'm coming up halfway into that section using a flick out motion. And then I'm gonna close my notches, you know, one by one. So right now I'm on the second notch. Now I'm gonna close it down one, and I'm gonna start attacking that bottom line, and then I'm gonna close it all the way and still attack that bottom line. And for the most part, that should get this bottom line completely out. And if it doesn't, that's perfectly cool. I'm gonna come back with my trimmers if needed anyways. The good thing about my nephew's hair is I feel like it fades, like it always looks good. Like yeah, you can have some discrepancies in it, you know, with the texture of hair. You can see some dark areas, but I feel like I always give him a good fade. I just like the way his hair fades, and I don't know, I've been cutting it for, like I said, maybe like 2-3 years or so, and yeah man, I just think it always looks good when I'm done with it. Alright, so now going into my next step, I got my number 1 guard on my clipper. My lever is all the way open, and I'm setting in the next guideline. I'm setting in my next guideline, and I'm still coming up about 3/4 of an inch or so, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, still using the flick out motion. Because remember guys, I did come up with that 3.5 blade, so that's basically a number 2 guard, you know, give or take, maybe like a 2 open. So I know I'm trying to fade into that without leaving too harsh of a line, so I am using a flick out motion, and as you can see, it is leaving the line on top, and that's cool. I'm gonna come back and fade that out anyways, but it's not too harsh. And then as you just saw there, I closed my clipper, and I'm attacking that bottom line, still using the flick out motion. And then you'll see me adjust my lever here and there just to do some small lever play, just to do a little bit of detail work, not too much. This is my 1/16 guard. My lever is open, and I'm still attacking that line because as you can see, there is still some dark spots and some discrepancies in that part of the fade. So I just want to take that out before I move on. And sometimes I don't do this, but with his hair, I do it because I feel it makes it easier for me. You know, I call audibles a lot, guys, and this is basically an audible I called. You know, I decided to use my 1/16 now, and as you can see, I started with my lever open, and then I started closing it notch by notch and started attacking them dark areas, and basically just looked at what it was doing, and if it looked good, I continued to do it, and if it didn't, I would adjust my lever more and try to get them dark areas out. And a lot of times as barbers, that's what we gotta do. We gotta call an audible, and sometimes we gotta just adjust that lever. Sometimes just going through the steps isn't enough. So here is my 1.5 guard lever open, and as you can see, I'm coming up and I'm using a flick out motion still, and I'm basically floating this clipper the higher I get. Basically what's happening is I'm going into that ridge area, so I'm just letting the clipper come off the head as I'm coming up, and then I'm going to close my lever and do the same exact thing. And as y'all can see, this fade is already coming together. Obviously, there's a few discrepancies, few little issues I gotta take care of, but for the most part, this fade's coming together. I think it's looking pretty blurry. Like maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, we're at like a 6 or a 7, and that's pretty good for my initial steps. I still gotta go back and detail it a little bit. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking my number 3 guard, and I'm just cleaning up this ridge area, and I know that's gonna fade perfectly into the top, so I really didn't do a lot of work with that. And now I'm coming back down and doing some detail work. Here is my number 2 guard, cleaning up that ridge still. Now I'm going in with my 1.5 guard, lever open, and then I'm gonna just adjust that lever as needed. And basically that's what I do when I detail, guys. I just come in with a guard and I just adjust that lever. And sometimes I don't go through every single guard. Sometimes I do, it just depends on the texture of hair. And like I said, it's all about calling audibles, and sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Now I'm going in with that 1 guard, lever open, just adjusting my lever like I said a few seconds ago. We're just trying to make sure we clean up this blend as good as we can. We want to make sure we get this blend as blurry as we can get it. We want to make sure we take this haircut to that next level, you know what I'm saying? That's just what we do. Let's go. And now I'm doing the same thing with that 116 guard. And I know some of y'all may be like, bro, like you're doing too many steps, but I don't think it is too many steps. Like honestly, like my fades still come out, you know, really good in the 30 to 45 minute window that I give myself. And for me to be giving out good fades in 30, 45 minutes, I think it's good. Cause I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all. I'm not really big on cutting hair fast. I'm more about the details and trying to get the haircut as good as I can in a decent amount of time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not big on 15, 20 minute cuts. I can do them, but I don't like to. I like to spend my time, you know, detailing the cut, giving a nice blend, just making sure these haircuts come out nice and, you know, make sure that they look good enough to where people see and they complimenting the cut. And I feel like if you get a compliment when I cut your hair, I feel like I did my job. You know what I'm saying? So as y'all can see here, I have no guard on my clipper. I started off with my lever open, just adjusting that lever, and as y'all can see, I'm doing some slight detail work using the corners of my blade here and there, you know what I'm saying, adjusting that lever, tapping these dark areas, just making this blend come together, because for the most part, this blend is looking good. I do see a small line at the bottom, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna take care of that here right now in a second. And like I said earlier, guys, if there was a line at the bottom, I'm going to hit it with my trimmer, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm attacking that bottom line with my trimmer, taking out that last bottom line. That way I can move on to the lineup and then, you know, make this side look even better. Shout out to my nephew, man. He did really good on this cut. You know, sometimes he be giving me a hard time, you know, but for the most part, he did good, you know. Hey, Roger, if you're watching this, I appreciate you. All right, now we're going back in, and what I'm doing is I'm just detailing it. You know, just cleaning up these dark areas, you know, adding whatever clip I feel is needed. And for the most part, I didn't feel like I needed too much detail work. So if y'all see it, this fade already looks pretty good. So I didn't do a lot of detail work. I really didn't want to mess anything up. All right, so as y'all can see, I did blend the other side of the fade in. However, I didn't record it. You know, I wasn't trying to take too much time recording. You know how little kids, man, they don't want to sit still for too long. So even though this is my nephew, you know, I ain't want to have to rough him up. So, you know, I just didn't record the opposite side. I did record the back for y'all, though. I feel like I moved a little quicker on the back, so I recorded the back. But yeah, y'all just follow along. And if y'all like this video so far, please make sure to smash that like button. Also, if you're new to my channel, subscribe one time for your boy, man. Y'all know how we do it. Also, let me give a shout out to Tito Beats. I appreciate you for these beats, man. You're always coming through with the nice beats. One more thing, guys, and I'm gonna shut up, I promise. At least for a little bit. If y'all like any of these tools that y'all see me using, y'all can head over to the Gamma Plus website. Use my code TANK10 when you're checking out, and you save yourself a little bit of money. All right, I'm gonna shut up now, I promise. Alright, so now that everything is completely done, guys, I'm just going over these, this lineup with the razor. I'm making sure I stretch that skin. I did dry shave them this time. Sometimes I put that lather on my clients, especially kids, and they start complaining that it's too hot. So I just decided to dry shave them. I don't really do this real often, but I do it every now and then. But when you're shaving in general, you want to make sure you stretch that skin, guys. It's going to lessen the chance of you nicking your client. So therefore, that's what y'all see me doing here. And I'm just trying to get these lines nice and sharp. And as y'all can see, this blend, it really came together. I did not add any enhancements. I just left it natural and hooked them up with that razor, and I think it looks good. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Yep. Alright, guys, so this is how my nephew came into the shop looking. It's been about 3-4 weeks. He was like, man, Theo, I need a haircut. I said, I got you, man. Come through, let's go. And this is how he left the shop looking. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this haircut in the comments, guys. If y'all like this video, please make sure to smash that like button. Also, if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe one time for your boy. I appreciate y'all, YouTube. Until next time, let's go.